This is Cinema Corner. I'm Alex. This is the other co-host, Josh. The other one, not here. He will be eventually, but not at the moment.
Man. And today we are going to be talking about Predator, Killers of Killers. You know, we have also previously posted a review of Prey. So, you know, I thought we had to at least give one on this one because it's recently come out and it's come out hot, man. I mean, it is at 97% right now for Rotten Tomatoes. 97 for an animated Predator film. That's insane to me, and also coming out on Hulu. So I do think it's a bit harder for people to give kind of those kind of streaming shows higher ratings, but 97 and also on IMDb it's at 7.6. So it's really killing it right now for reviews.
I know it's very similar to Prey. When Prey came out, it came out to Hulu only, so there was no like theatrical release. It wasn't like on one of these bigger streaming services. Granted, now Hulu is like kind of partnered up with Disney Plus, but still, it's not like one of these big boys like HBO Max or even like Prime Disney Plus. So it's like, Prey's doing really well. I mean, did really well. Predator Killers obviously is killing it at the moment. It just came out as of this recording 5 days ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. And I was like, I kept seeing these little clips here and there on TikTok. I was like, you know what? Fine. Like the moment that I get a chance to watch it, I'm going to go ahead and watch it. It's like an hour, 30 minutes, maybe max. I sat down, watched it. And I remember I texted you. I was like, hey, they might be onto something here. They might be onto something here.
Yeah. I mean, TikTok was posting a bunch of clips about it, and the only thing I knew about this film was that it was coming out at some point. Did not even know that it came out,
Same.
6 days ago. And then you were texting about it. And my friend was texting me about it. I was like, all right, I'll give it a watch. I think what's really been helping these last two Predator films is I feel like everyone's kind of just going into it blind. And it might be one of the rare occurrences that it's benefiting on being on streaming first, and it's going to it's throwing up the lob of the upcoming actual movie release in theaters. I think the movie's going to do good because of Prey and this one setting it up, and especially because you're not really required to even watch these two. Which that's a huge win of not forcing the streaming. So, they're not necessarily saying it's not canon, but they're saying you can skip it if you want. It's up to you. And that's, I think, a huge win. Especially, because Hulu isn't a top dog, especially since Disney's acquired them. They kind of just are getting almost
like a little
sloppy second
sub-content, or like
at the Fox shows, basically. Like Shogun appeared on there. It's just like random shit that some reasons like, that could go to Hulu, and Disney's like, okay, that's okay. But yeah, I mean, so I went in this blind. I think it's an hour 30 animated film. I think when it comes to animated films, you kind of do feel that runtime more than even if it's not that 2-hour mark. But this one, because it was telling multiple stories in one, you don't really feel that hour 30 at all. In fact, it kind of almost felt like, as a kid, when you're kind of watching your animated TV shows, of it having its own kind of separated longer arcs within one thing. So it worked. It was fun. And it kind of just was like showcasing the different types of predators that are out there, what they can do, what they can be. Which I think is actually going to benefit the new film because it's really based, we're having a predator be the main character versus a human. So that's definitely going to be interesting. So I think this kind of helps that. But what was your takes though? Do you have a favorite one that out of what was it, like 3 or 4? I can't remember.
3.
I think it was just 3.
Yeah. So I have notes on this. So what's so unique about this particular film is that it's shot in a form of like an anthology, where it's like these separate stories where you can literally go into it, watch it, pause it, and just you don't have to continue watching it. But they did it so brilliantly where you first set up. It starts in the Viking era, and they're literally like separated by chapters. So the first chapter is the Shield, and you're introduced to this character Ursa. And it's like its own little story. It has a start, beginning, end. and it's that alone is good enough. But the fact that they wove three, like seemingly three separate stories taking place in different times, like I said, Viking era was the first one, in feudal Japan, which is dope to see, and then in World War II with the dogfighting. So you have these three separate characters, three different times on this planet, and obviously three separate predators, and you get their own beginning, middle, end. But then on top of that, you see that, oh no, these are connected, because like guess what, they wanted their lick back. They
Yep.
captured them, and they're like, no no no, you're not gonna defeat one of us and just like walk away. No no, we want to run it back. So they captured them, cryo froze them, and now that's how they're all alive, which is such a unique way. And it's like, obviously you're like, it ends, the very first one ends with her kind of like holding her son, which I mean was
Brutal,
really
man.
good. Yeah, I was like, holy
the first
shit,
one's my favorite. I'm just gonna say it was pretty good. It was a strong start.
It was. And then it's like, it just fades, and it just perfectly fades into like, oh shit, wait a minute, there might be more to this than we think. And then obviously it then leads directly into the next one, and then from that one into the last one, and then obviously you get like the final battle. I was like, okay, unique way of doing this like anthology series kind of thing that you want to do. This is a way that you can get these, you know, get Predator in these different times without having to do its own separate thing. Like, oh, this is a movie taking place in like in Viking era, this one's taking place in Japan or whatever. It's like that way you can have these unique stories all in one big movie and make it make sense. And I thought that they did that really well. Along with that, the animation, bro, something about that animation style is just,
it's definitely so the in, man. I mean, I think that's the kind of defining, I guess you can say, the 20s, since we're in the kind of 2020s ish. That's the style that we got, and it works. It's fun, it's new, and it just keeps working for these films. And I think we're definitely going to keep seeing it. And I don't mind that. I don't think I need an animation change. It's working for now. Keep it up.
I agree. Yeah, it's like what I told you. I was like, this is like an animation mix and blend of like Arcane, if anyone's ever seen that. Obviously, it was very big, I think, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like more famously, the Spider-Verse movies with like the animating on like twos. So yeah, I thought that it works for like, yeah. I mean, let's just go into it, because the very first one you just said is your favorite. It's competing for my favorite. I think I still lean more towards the feudal Japan one, because I mean it's so cool.
I mean,
like
yeah, it hits
it's like, because like when you're watching, you don't realize it, but they're not really talking.
No,
and it works, because you're like, okay, I'm like so invested in what's going on right now. Obviously they're like crying of pain and when the predator shows up and everything like that, but no spoken words until the end, or the very beginning to set it up, and then the very end to like bookend it. And I thought that was perfect. It didn't need anything more, which was honestly a feat of its own. I thought it was amazingly animated. I love the setting of feudal Japan. I'm a fucking slut for feudal Japan. Like anything set in that timeline and in that time, I have to watch it. It's just, it was done really well. So yeah, I would say that's my favorite, and then followed very closely by the Viking era. But what about the Viking era one did you enjoy?
I think for me, what the deciding factor really was just kind of the ending of the fact that the son wasn't. I thought it was kind of setting up like, oh, the son's gonna be one. He steps up the plate, man. He hits the home run by saving his mom and all that. I love the fact that it wasn't. He dies. And also kind of just like the, end of her character too, of, don't avenge me, man. Don't forward this pain on. It ends with me. Definitely think that's cool. And that was kind of just the only deciding factor for me, was just kind of just her ending the character arc, and that just little story too. But I definitely agree. Second one definitely is Japan. And the big thing about that was the lack of dialogue kind of helped, and also had kind of mysterious of where it was leading to, him just stabbing the cheek instead of fighting, and then just immediately Predator jumping in after that. and throwing hands and be like, oh shit, dude.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what's about to happen. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
but I gotta say, the third one, I didn't hate the dog fight. I
Me
definitely think
neither.
it's kind of the weaker one, just because maybe, listen, I think I'm still got like 5 more years in me till I'm out of the World War II-esque fatigue. I feel like we kind of grew up with so much of movies and shows about that, and they're
Yeah.
great, but I just need a bit of a break. So it kind of just felt like they threw it in there to be like, we got some bit modern in there, but it's still a solid story. And I think a really cool part about that one was actually seeing an ace pilot Predator having fun and using his tech and him saying fuck it and just going just straight dogfight with them. So definitely was cool. Yeah, but I mean, it was just cool just having the 3 different almost generations, I guess, in there and still fighting kind of with their old timey tech that kind of alludes to how like Prey was as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like the unique thing about these main characters, not only in this but like in the past too. It's like they have to resort to what they know. It's like they can't out technology the Predator because that's literally their thing. Like they just have to outsmart them, and that's how each one defeats them, and they all defeat them like in unique ways. She like the first one, Ursa, she has to drown him and basically use his own weapon that just like shoots. I don't know, what is it, like a repulsor blast?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he basically kills himself because
it was intense, man. He was big as shit too.
yeah, that's a big fucking Predator there. And then in feudal Japan, the 2 brothers obviously they have to team up because at first you're like, okay, well, obviously the main conflict here is that he wants to get his lick back because he basically forced him to leave. And he came back once like I don't know what it was, whether it was like his mentor or his father, whatever it is. Yeah. Either way, that guy was a douche. Fuck him. We fucking hate him. Either way, he died. He came back, the son, I mean, and he was gonna try to get his lick back on his brother. And obviously, that is all thrown out the window. Literally, when the Predator comes in, he's like, "Nah, I saw how you guys fight, and I want you guys to fight me." And and obviously it has to end with them teaming up, but obviously the one brother has already been stabbed earlier in the fight, so he was literally fighting with his last breath, and he died. And obviously that's when we get that like bookend of them actually talking together. And I was like, this is really good. Like the moment when that happened, I was like, okay, yeah, we're definitely onto something here with this particular director. Because I mean, I don't know if we mentioned this, but Dan Trachtenberg, he directed this animated feature, but he also directed Prey.
That's crazy.
He also directed Prey.
A whole different style to direct an animated film is nuts.
Yeah, and he's doing the upcoming Predator film, which, I mean, like you said, it only helps that movie because you have the same creative head, the director of the last 2 projects. They have been massive successes. Whether or not it's been in theaters, that's neither here nor there. Fox, or I guess 20th Century Studios, didn't deem them enough to like good enough to be put on like on the big screen. But I mean, they're killing it when it comes to the ratings. People like word of mouth is literally working for these films because like Killer of Killers, I didn't know when it was going to come out. Just like you, I was like, I knew it was a thing. I didn't know when it was going to come out. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, it's out. And people are just talking about it. And they're like, yeah, this is really good. You guys should give it a watch and everything. I was like, okay, well, fine. I'll give it. Then I watched it. I liked it. Obviously, you ended up watching it. I think you said someone else in your other friend group potentially saw it too. So it's like, it's just like that's how these things work. And sometimes you don't need like this big budget marketing because like I think we got like one trailer for this once like a few months ago, and that was YouTube.
It. Just the exactly. Social medias, man. There was not marketing for this film.
Exactly, and I feel like it's doing better than a lot of these big budget films that are supposedly, getting stupid amount of money for marketing, and they don't as well.
I think they could. I mean, the nice thing about this director is he's a younger guy, so it looks like he's in his 40s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If this upcoming Badlands films does well, I mean, are we talking about reviving the franchise under one man?
I mean, arguably, he's already starting to do that. I mean,
and Aliens is already coming back too. I mean, we saw Romulus taking a hit. They're coming out with their own Hulu show as well, and stuff that we're seeing from that. It's like, hey man, there's just Badlands. We're seeing the connections already between the franchises.
Obviously, the Wailing Yutani brand that's very famous in Aliens is showing up in the trailers in Predator Badlands. The two franchises that at one point in the 2000s and 2010s was the depths of hell. But when it came to the few movies that did come out were just awful. And then for a while, they just weren't making movies at all. So 2020s, late 2010s, early 2020s, a big revival. And a lot of that has to do with the success of Prey and now Killer of Killers. And obviously, I mean, Alien Romulus was a really good film as well. But they're only helping each other. And I mean, I gotta say, if Badlands does well, and I feel like there's no reason to see why it can't, with the same director directing Prey and Killers doing that film, I don't see how that can be less than at least a good film to watch in theaters. If it can at least be like an experience that Alien Romulus gave me, I feel like that's going to be a huge success, which is big for this franchise.
And I bet it's not even going to have a massive budget either. I mean, they do such a good job of doing, more with less, and it allows these movies to be successful. And it kind of already looks like they're not really going to be using a lot of CGI. It's going to be a lot of actual just, made sets, makeups and everything like that. So that's going to be saving
practical
money
suits
right there.
For the Predator, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, man, I mean, the future definitely looks exciting. And we'd even get to the ending of Kill of Killers of actually having a gladiator type ending where they have to team up. Definitely was cool. It was definitely a fun ending to the movie. And I gotta say, I was a bit worried when I was getting into it because of pacing wise, but I think they paced it really well. And the fighters each had their kind of moment too in the film. It really was just a solid movie. And I think if they keep doing this, they could also keep making animated films. And you don't have to make it canon that goes into the actual big movies. I mean, do it like DC does with their DC animated. I mean, they don't technically call that stuff canon, and as well as you can make it.
Wonder Bread.
You can make it your own. I mean, and those DC animated films are popular and do well for DC. So if you kind of just make it where you don't force people to see it, but it's just kind of a fun, nice film to watch and just getting kind of extra Predator content, why not keep doing it?
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's like the biggest plus is that you don't have had to have watched, at least to my knowledge, not Killer of Killers, maybe Prey to kind of get a little more context, but even then, it's like they're their own separate stories that only add to the Predator lore and to like the franchise itself. It's an addition rather than inevitably a subtraction.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the big theatrical releases, and that's something that, I mean, as of late, Marvel has done, where it's like you're kind of forced to watch this. People are having to pay for a subscription on Disney Plus to watch the show in order to get like a big plot point or something that leads into the big movie that comes out. And that just clearly that hasn't been a winning formula for them.
Not at all.
So like, why would Predator franchise or Dan Trachtenberg in this case, why would he do that with this franchise? So he was smart in doing that, where it's like, this is only going to give the Predator fans more content. Obviously, something that they haven't been getting. I think the last big movie was 2018, and that movie was shit. Before that, it was 2010. So it was like 8-year gap, and then after that, it was like another 6-year gap. So we were very like famine here when it came to like content in this world. But now it's like, oh, we're getting stuff more frequently. And, it's just little content. Like you said, like the DC animated movies. Some of those are fucking bangers.
Yeah.
But guess what? They don't have to tie into something, that's overarching plot or big arc that you have to have watched in order to get another movie later on down the line. It just adds to the lore. It doesn't. You're not required to go back to it and like watch it in order to understand this. And that's, I think, is the best formula for success. And that's honestly, that's what they're gonna have to do when it comes to this particular franchise. And they're doing a really good job, because guess what? For the people that ended up watching this film, there's a post credit scene, and turns out the main character, Naru from Prey, she's alive and she's in cryo sleep.
That's pretty funny, man.
That is awesome. That's like a little tidbit that you just get if you were a fan of Prey, and I loved it. I love it.
And we'll see if that happens with anything, or it's just kind of just fun little tidbit of being like, hey, this is where they are right now. Anything else you want to say before maybe we get into rating the film?
Nah, man, I think I spoke my piece when it came to
Okay. All right, so I rated it like I would any other film. So that's my rating. I'm not giving it kind of that animated grace as sometimes people might do. I think this is just a solid 7 out of 10. I mean, it gave me everything I wanted. I enjoyed it. And I think it's just a good little solo film. I had a good time, and I really can't say too much great about it. I can just say a lot of good, but not really a lot of bad at all.
Okay. I'm also going to be in that 7 area, but I'm a little bit higher. I'm at a 7.8.
That's
so
pretty good.
Yeah, loved it. And I can't wait for Predator Badlands, which comes out in November. And this is only just like, as a fan of this franchise, I mean, even through the bad, it's nice that I can be here and be like, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. We might actually get a good movie, a good Predator film in theaters for the first time in God knows how long. And that's just a nice feeling. So,
and for me, I'm on the newbie perspective.
Yeah.
I am new to the Predator franchise. Prey is the first Predator film I ever watched, so I'm definitely benefiting from that. But I think that's pretty much it for our review. Anyone that actually watches this, hey, how are you feeling about the Predator franchise? I assume you're feeling pretty good, and let's just hope that they learn from the other kind of franchises, aka DC and Marvel, of the do's and don'ts.